Hi everyone, it's Kay of Kay's Creative Home. Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be celebrating our Christmas in July by making a candy cane wreath. We're going to use the Dollar Tree wreath frame, and then we have some other things, and this is the 14-inch, I believe 14-inch frame. And then we have some greenery, and that's also from Dollar Tree. We have the tinsel ties, those are from Dollar Tree. And then we have my ribbon from Sam's Club, which I love. So economical, and these are the ones we're going to be using. The other one I put to the side is also the black and white stripe, but I know it's not enough left on there to do my whole project. And so, I'm sorry, one of these is from Costco. This one, this red and white one here, that's from Costco. And then the others are from Sam's Club. So we're going to put these together, and for the first time I'm going to be offering a wreath kit, trying it out, see what happens. Not going to have a whole bunch of them, but I did want to try and just get an idea of this is something you might be looking for, and I'll tell you more about that later. So we're going to be starting with covering the frame. I like to fold over the bottom edge. Some people wrap it around and then fold it up. I try to keep things seams invisible whenever possible. So what I'm going to do is fold up that bottom edge to make sure that that's completely covered. And I'm going to be using glue, hot glue gun, to work my way up this wreath frame. So I just ran some glue across the bottom edge of that ribbon. Going to fold it up onto the frame, kind of hold it in place for a minute till it adheres, and then we're going to start wrapping this around the candy cane frame. So I'm using my little finger cover there, that silicone cover, and then my little tool, which I also got from Dollar Tree. I call it my little spatula. So the next thing we want to do is fold in the first side, and we're going to glue that down once I get it just like I want it, because I like to pull my ribbon as tight as possible to make sure it's not gapping and bulging kind of on the other side. And yes, this way we're working right now is all on the back side of the frame. So the front of the frame is on the table and the back side is face up. So once I get that as tight as I want it, then I'm going to take this piece, and you can see how the bottom is completely covered. It's actually folded at the side closest to you. And I'm sorry, we're having a storm here. You might hear a little thunder. And then I'm going to start wrapping. And so I'm going to bring it across the back edge first, making sure everything stays covered. So I'm going to add a little glue here to make it nice and secure, because when you're first starting out, things tend to move. And I mean a little bit of glue, because you don't want it to seep through the ribbon and show up on the other side. So I'm just holding that in place for a minute, making sure everything is adhering nicely. And then I can start working my way up the frame. So I'm going at a slight angle like a candy cane. And your angle can be, as much as you want it to be. I just chose a slight angle for this wreath, and as much as I can go there without having part of the wreath frame showing. So I'm going to start adding a little bit of glue every time I get to the back. So this is the back again, and once I get that down, I'm using a little bit of glue each time to make sure it's nice and secure. Someone won't pick this up with their hand and have the ribbon start to slide up or down. Doubt that would happen, but just in case. So here again, when I hit that back side, I added a little glue. Here we are at the back again. And you can see I'm doing it right on the same side each time. The back, only on one side, and it's just a dab of glue. And I usually put a little bit on the bottom ribbon that was left beforehand and a little bit on the frame. So now that I've got it started, I am actually going to do 2 wraps and then add a little bit of glue. And I'm sorry, I tried to make sure I remembered to turn it each time so you could see what I was doing. And it looks like I forgot that time. And while I'm doing that, if you enjoy these kind of videos, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with others. And if you'd like to be a member of the family, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. And that way you'll get notified when new videos are released. And like I said, as I keep wrapping here, I am going to try to start making some little wreath kits, and they'll be in my Etsy shop. So this kit for this frame, for this project, your Candy Cane Wreath, will have the wreath frame, some tinsel ties, the ribbon, and the greenery. The only thing you will need is your hot glue gun and some glue. So, and then something maybe to protect your fingers when you're using that glue gun. And we're going to put all of that together in a kit for you. And I hope you really like it. And right now, I'm also offering a coupon for the month of July, for Christmas in July, where if you spend over $30, you can put in save 20 in the coupon code, and save 20% off your total purchase. Alright, so we're getting to the curve of the candy cane, and that's when it usually starts causing people problems. I say as long as it's smooth on the front, who cares if it gathers in the back? So I just keep working my way around. You see I've got it there again. I'm on the back, and so I'm going to add a little bit of glue. And then when I flip it again, my goal is just to make sure it's smooth on the front as much as possible. So I've worked it over, and you see I'm making sure it's secure there in the curve. And it started, gathering because you're working your way around the curve. But that's okay. And excuse me, I'm trying to untangle my ribbon here. This is why people just drop their ribbon to the floor, because this ribbon can really get tangled as you're working with it. It gets twisted. I have my own little pet peeves about putting stuff on the floor. I don't like my stuff on the floor, but I may get a basket or something to sit on the floor so that I can start dropping that ribbon too, because it can be a hassle. Alright, so I've made my way around here again, and as before, a little bit of glue on the ribbon, a little bit of glue on the frame, and believe me, it just takes a tiny bit of glue. And as I said before, when you hit the front, just make sure it's as smooth as possible on the front. Take your time. You can see how I'm kind of just working it each time. And as I continue to go around this curve, I'm going to keep adding glue, because this is where I really don't want it to be sliding and moving, because it will start gathering and bunching up. Alright, so I'm just going to work each time, just work my way around, trying to get it just as smooth as possible, turning my angles whichever way I need to get that ribbon down as smooth as possible. And then here on the back again, like I said, if it needs to bunch up, let's bunch it up on the back. And that's why I flip my candy canes as I'm working, or any wreath form. If I'm wrapping it in ribbon, I flip it as I'm working, because I always want to be able to see the front and make sure it's as smooth as possible. Here you can see at this point it's gathering. I just can't help but have some gathering, and because I'm working my way around that final part of that curve. But I'm again just going to try to make sure as much as possible that gathering is on the back. So I'm smoothing it out, and now I'm back on the front again. I flipped the candy cane, so yeah, this is the front, and you see it's working out pretty good as far as keeping everything smooth. I'm going to finish this up, and might as well stay right here with you. I don't want to fast forward, because we're getting to the end, and I'll show you how I end off the candy cane. Again, to become a family member, just hit that button and ring the bell, and that way you'll be notified when videos are released. I am also have new things listed in my Etsy shop. I'm going to just be adding things weekly. probably daily, as a matter of fact, from now until the end of the year. I have placed in there a lot of my fall florals and leaves that you may want to use to make some fall wreaths. I have the wreaths I've been making, I'm getting them listed, and I will also have this wreath listed. And like I said, the little kit, I'm only going to make maybe 3 or 4 of the kits. I don't have a ton of supplies, so that's why I'm going to just start slowly. It will be at a very reasonable price. And I tallied everything up and left it in the other room. I am such a good salesperson, but I'll put the price here on the screen. And again, like I said, but if you spend $30, you're going to get 20% off of that. Okay, so I hope you really like this, and I hope you'll give it a try, getting the kit or buying some of the other things that I'm making available in the shop. Okay, so I've zoomed in a little bit so you can see I've worked my way around the edge of the frame, a few extra loops, and so that the end of the candy cane is completely covered, and I'm still adding just a tiny bit of glue to the back. And that's because you don't want that glue to seep through to the other side. It'll look like a giant wet spot, you know, if you put too much glue on there. And I don't know any way of getting that off the ribbon unless you can just cover it with something in the end, some kind of decoration. So I've tucked in my raw edge and glued it down. And then the next thing I'm going to do when I finish with all these glue strings is turn it up. And this is how a lot of people just do their bottom too. I did my bottom a little differently. So I'm going to turn it up. But before I glue it down, I'm actually going to bend in each corner a little bit. And let me see if I can zoom in again a minute so you can see how I actually bend in this corner. Okay, just untangling this ribbon. And now I've zoomed in a bit. And like I said, I folded it up. But see how I turned that corner in a little bit on each side? Again, so that when you fold it up, you won't have any pieces of the that little squared off edge peeking out on the other side. So I'm trying to make a good little fold right at the edge of the candy cane so you don't have a nice, you know, finished edge. It won't be rounded or kind of a little out of shape. You want it to be flat and firm right up against the end of the candy cane. So we got that finished. I'm going to flip it over and point out the fact that as much as we tried, no matter what you do, you end up with a little bit of puckling in there. What I do like about this ribbon though is you see the edge of each ribbon where the thread is actually sewn. It makes its own little design. It's kind of red and white threaded design there that I kind of like on this candy cane. So the next thing I want to do is figure out how big I want to make my bow. This candy cane wreath frame, like I said, it's about 14 inches. We don't want to put a huge bow on it and just swallow it up. So I laid the ribbon out, the loop out, and from where I see the center of my candy cane, right now I'm looking at about a 3-inch loop. And then I thought if I come down a little bit so that I'm not running into the other side of the candy cane, I can actually make a little 4-inch loop. So each of those squares represents an inch on my board there, my cutting board. So yep, I decided to start with a 4-inch loop. So here's my bow maker. I'm going to start making my bow. And the first ribbon I want to use is a black and white stripe. And for me, I like using dark colors in the background because I think it gives your bow more depth, or a little bit of depth. So I'm going to start out with still a 6-inch tail, and once I get it on the reframe, I might cut some of that. Yeah, because I was trying to measure to see if I even needed 6 inches. And from about where I'm going to place it, it's going to be about, 8 inches from the bow down. So I did a 6-inch tail, and I'm going to start with my 4-inch loop. And I put that in, and then you twist the ribbon, do a 4-inch loop on the other side, and then just bring the ribbon through and cut off a 6-inch tail. So I'm going to do 2 loops with each ribbon, And I just forgot there to stick the other tail up at the top, but I'll move that around later. So the next ribbon, I'm going to use my red ribbon. It's got some green shimmery colors, threads going through it. It's very pretty. So I'm going to do the same thing, 6-inch tail, and then I'm going to do a 4-inch loop again, come back through the center, twist it, make another 4-inch loop, and go back through to the other side. And yeah, this is where I remember to put that black and white tail up at the top. And so then cut a 6-inch tail there at the bottom. All right, so going on to the next one. I'm going to add the red and white stripe next. I wanted to include it in the bow since that's what's on the candy cane. So I put it through, brought it through, twisted it, brought my loop through, twisted it, and then made this second loop, and then just kept it straight, cutting off a 6-inch. Now when I got here, I realized I had both the stripe ribbons on the same side. See how both those tails are the same? I mean, as far as stripe. I didn't want that, so I went back. So I started the other direction, putting it through, and making my bow again, so that in the end, I had these stripes on the other side now. So the black and white stripes tails and the red and white striped tails are not overlapping each other. They're going at a cross like there. All right, so and you, like I said, you do that just based on where you start your tails. So here's the next one. I put the tail in, gave it a twist, brought the loop through, and this red and white stripe and this red design here, these are 3-inch loops because I wanted them to be smaller. They're going to be on top. So got that bow, got those loops in there to make that part of the bow. And this is going to be my bow, just 2, 4, 6, 8 loops and the 8 tails. I think that's big enough for that candy cane. Like I said, I don't want to overpower it with a ton of ribbon because it's not a huge candy cane. So I slid my tinsel tie underneath for everything to gather it and catch my bow. I was trying to decide if I needed two. Couldn't make up my mind here, but I put one up underneath everything, brought it around to hold everything together. Lifted my bow off my bow maker, and then I'm sliding the ribbon around to the back. So now you're looking at the back of the bow. I put another tinsel tie in there so that I could attach it to the candy cane. As it turns out, the first tinsel would have been enough because it was long enough on its own. So I gave it a twist, get everything nice and tight, nice and secure. And then I ended up just using both of those tinsel ties to wrap my way around the candy cane. And first you saw me, I had to find one. It kind of got lost inside the loops. So I got both of those hanging off the back. And now I'm just shaping up my bow. Again, making sure everything is situated like I wanted. I wanted the, how did I do? The black and white stripe, I believe, has the red, I don't know what you call it, zigzag, I'll call it, design ribbon above it. And then my solid red ribbon has the red and white stripes above that. And you'll see that as I get the bow placed on here. So like I said, I wanted it to be a little bit below. First I started with it like almost even with the edge of the candy cane, and I did not like it because it lost the curve of the candy cane. So I took that, loosened it back up, no big deal, lowered it down about 1 inch, and then I twisted it on snugly and securely so that it'll be attached. And then did that, you can either twist the tinsel ties together or you can twist your candy cane around. Doesn't matter, get it twisted. So now you can see, I'm sorry, I went a little bit above where that loop stops. I mean, where the loop of your candy cane is, not below. I went above it. So what I'm going to do now again is shape the bow like I said before. Take your time when doing this. Get things just like you want them. And for me, this is like a really important part. And I usually do take a lot of time doing this. And getting those tails where I want them to be, because once you cut them, that's it. So you need to kind of know where they're going to land. And so you'll know what length to cut them. I'm also adding a little bit of curl to my tails as I'm working my way around, just by running my hand underneath them. And now I've kind of gotten everything like I wanted. And you can see by doing that, those tinsel ties or those pipe cleaners really tight, my bow has a nice little pop to it. So now I'm deciding where to cut my tails, and I've decided again my deeper colors are for the background, so they're going to be a little shorter than the lighter colors on top. So that solid red and that black and white, they are a little teeny bit longer than what's on top of those. And the same thing at the top, cutting my tails, trying to get them so that they're nice and full, but again, don't overpower the wreath, because that candy cane can get lost very quickly in a lot of ribbon. So I'm going to finish clipping those, get them just like I want them. And I can see it left it a little longer, so I have some space to add that little bit of curl to it. So I've got this on here, and I'm pretty happy with how this bow is turning out. Decided to cut that a little bit more so it wouldn't overhang the candy cane too much. So next thing I want to do here is add a little bit of greenery. So right now, like I said, looking pretty cute, but it needs a little more depth, a little more color, a little more something to it. And since there's a little bit of green in that red ribbon, I think a little bit of greenery would be nice to bring that out. So what we have here is our Dollar Tree greenery, and it comes with 6 pieces in a pack, and it's got little silver shimmers on it. It's very pretty. And I placed a piece in, and again, it's way too big, so what I'm going to do is cut it in half. And I do that by leaving the bottom stem and 2 branches, and then I cut right in between those 2 branches so that I'll have another stem and branches coming out. And I'll lay them down later so you can really see them. I might even insert a picture so you can kind of see them. And then I started placing them. I did the one with those 2 branches. There they are, laid down there. The one with the 2 branches are at the bottom because the tails are longer and they cover more. So it's just peeking out a little bit. And the one with the 3 branches is at the top. The tails are shorter up there and you can see more of it. So I wanted to give it a little more of the branches up there. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And you see I did them at a diagonal. Again, on the bottom and on the top, it's coming in like an X. So I'm placing them where I want them to be, kind of like that, and you can clearly see in the back how it's really a diagonal. So let me share that with you. Once I decide here, taking too long, girl, turn it around, share it with the audience. There we go. All right, so that's what I'm looking at doing right here. So I'm gonna get some glue. You see me looking because I'm not really totally happy yet, but we'll get there. So I'm going to get some glue and start adding these in. And what I'm doing is just adding glue to the back, straight up and down that stem. Not too far up because you don't want it to be so far in the behind the bow that you don't see it. So you just need a little bit on the stem, maybe about 1 inch, or maybe a little bit more depending on the stem you're working with. Here I'm working with the greenery, so I'm not going to stick that in too far. I want you to be able to see it. Those other 2 there that are laying there that are going to go on the bottom, they have a nice long stem before you get to the greenery. So that can go in a little bit further because you want to hide those stems and just let the greenery be seen. The ones I put in the top were all greenery. Okay, got those in, and now I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom. Again, coming in from the angle on both sides. And because the stems are so long, I'm actually going to cut them a little bit. Be careful when you cut things like this because sometimes those pieces do go flying. And just as I said, one landed on the table and one went flying somewhere. So you don't want them to, hit your eyes when you're doing that. So I tend to close my eyes when I'm actually doing the cutting. Sometimes I can hold my hand over it to make sure it doesn't fly up. So I've tucked that in at the bottom, and I'm just going to hold it in place for a minute so that it gets a chance to adhere. And then I'm going to move on to the other one because we're getting close to finishing. Oh, got a little bit more to do though. Don't leave yet. One more step. And if you decide to get the kit, you can just follow this video along. And while you're making your own, you have the instructions right here. Or you can come up with your own ideas. So I've got those two in there on the bottom. And the next thing I want to do is clip a little bit more of the ribbon because some of it, the greenery just got hidden with the tails. So I clipped a little teeny bit more so you can see some of the greenery on both sides. So I'm looking at it again and trying to decide. I know it needs something else and I just can't decide what. And I know it needs some more greenery, but it was like, and where do I put it? So I'm playing around with this greenery that went behind the candy cane. And I was trying to bring it in the front. And then when I finally got it to the front, I didn't like it. So I pushed it to the back again. It can, it can hang out there. Doesn't matter. So I got my diagonal going. And once I decided, see how the greenery is there, but you still need to pull it into the bow a little bit more. So I'm going to reach into this bag and get one more piece of greenery. And I'm going to clip that the same way again so that I have two pieces. And then I'm going to put it to each side. So I have the diagonals, and now I'm going to do a left and right. So it would be like your 9 o'clock and your 3 o'clock if you were looking at a clock. So the bottom one this time I cut so that the each one looked like they had a three-pronged fork at the top. So I didn't cut that stem quite as low. So I've placed them in on both sides, and I'm just playing around with it, seeing how it looks. But you can see it's not at the bottom of the bow. This time it's in the side of the bow so that you can see it up front. So like it's in between your 4-inch loop and your 3-inch loop so you can really see it. So I put some glue on there and I pushed it in. Again, not so much that you don't see it at all, but pushed it in so that it's enough that you don't see the stem. So I'm going to do that on the other side. And use that little tool to hold it in place so I don't burn myself. I'm so glad I found those little tools at Dollar Tree. Saved my fingers a lot. So now I've got that on there like I like it. I'm still going to take that tinsel tie in the back and twist it and make a little loop so I can actually hang it using that. Or you can hang it by adding another loop to the top where the candy cane actually has a hook. And so here we go. I want to thank you for spending this time with me, and I'll be talking with you again real soon.